Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots. I was asked to share how to make a basic name ornament for the holiday season inside of the new xTool studio. It's very easy. Now, I'm going to be using the P2 canvas because it's nice and large. However, this applies to absolutely every one of these lasers. The design features are all the same. Now, before we get too far into this, come up to your xTool Studio menu, select Check for Updates. Right now, I'm using version 1.0.15 of xTool Studio. If your number is lower than that, there is an update. If your number is higher than that, there are going to be the same functions. Listen for those functions as things might have moved around a bit. So we're going to start with a blank canvas. You're going to need the text menu for the name. You're going to need the basic shapes menu, and you're going to learn about basic editing of text and vectors. So the first thing we need to do is decide on our shape. I'm going to create a circular ornament. If you come over to the left menu, you can select circle here, or you can do like me and just hit C on your keyboard. Once you hit C, hold down Shift and get a perfect circle. If you hit C and do not hold Shift, that's what's going to give you the ability to make any sort of vector in a circular-ish shape. So I also want to come here and say, I want my ornament 4.25 inches large. You can make it any size, but because we held down Shift, it will automatically do what it will need to do in order to make it the same perfect circle. So you just need to do one of these and it will work. All right, so this is our basic shape. That's it. The next thing we need to do is design a hanger. Now, I always recommend you design the hanger before you finish the ornament. You don't have to attach the hanger until the end. However, it will make a difference, especially if you are creating multi-layer ornaments. So I'm going to create two different hangers so that you can see how easy it is. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and you can see right now I have a red line, a blue line splitting these two circles, and a blue line at the bottom. That's called auto snapping. If you like that, because it does make measurements a little bit easier and aligning things a little bit easier, you can come to your green X menu, that's your software menu, come down to settings, and it's this auto snapping. Now, I tend to use Command R or Control R to turn it on and off. However, you can do whatever you want. So right now, if I select both of these, if they aren't even and you don't have auto snapping on, you can actually just come up here to the alignment method and just hit vertical align center as well. There are many different ways to do things inside of xTool's Studio. They all get you to the same result. So let's say we want a circular hanger on this side and a rectangular or a mid-century modern sort of rounded rectangle over on this side. So I'm going to hit C on my keyboard again and hold down Shift. Now that gives us this nice pretty little circle. If I hit C again, I can make a smaller circle, select both of them, come up to the alignment menu and select Align Center. Now, zooming in on this side, I'm going to come and highlight a little feature I absolutely love. It's called measurement. It's inside of this applications menu and it's right here. If you select click to measure, and you can see now the quadrant is turning pink where I am, and I click once and drag it until the quadrant turns pink again, you can see that's almost 1/4 of an inch. And all of my lasers can cut that, so I'm good. Now, if I right click to change the color and change the back to engrave, click on the front circle and click to engrave, you can see what's really going on here. I have one circle on top of another circle. Now, if I want it to cut out this small circle from the big circle, I can do that by highlighting both, going to the Boolean algorithms, and selecting subtract. That will remove one. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, you can subtract an overlap as well. Either will work, subtract or subtracted overlap in this particular example. There are many instances in which the Boolean algorithms are not going to work for you. If you have one and it will not work, try the other, and it does. Okay, so when we turn this back to cut, you can see we have a small circle cutting out of a large circle. That's exactly what we want. Now to align these, you can select both and do horizontal alignment. I do not want to attach them yet because this background, if I change this to engrave, you'll see it's just one big piece. And that's not what we're wanting. We want a concentric circle and a name through the middle. So let's turn that back to cut. Now I told you up here we did the 2 circle method. Let's do the offset method for this one. So right now I have the large circle selected and I want an inside circle cut out of it because I want my final circle to measure 4.25. If I add something to the outside of it, that will adjust the size of my overall ornament. So let's do the inside. Coming up here to offset, it automatically defaults to external. So we're going to go ahead, select inner, then turn off external. You see what happens there? We go from 3 lines to 2 lines, and this inner circle is the one we are adjusting. So to adjust it, we can come here and use these little arrows, or we can just type. Either way, you can do both. So now I'm going to select confirm. Now, if I change these colors and I select both and show engrave, it's exactly as it was up here. We have a small red circle on top of a black circle. And again, I can highlight both of them, come to my Boolean menu, hit subtract, and now we have a circular or concentric circular cutout. That is exactly what we want. So now let's do a name. And to save me time in a minute, I'm just going to copy that. Okay. So let's come back over here. I'm holding down space bar so that I can get the hand menu. If you don't like using the keyboard, you can come down here and select hand. It will do the exact same thing. Normally it's on select. All right, so let's come in here and let's get a little bit closer. I'm hitting, for zooming in, I'm hitting Command or Control and the plus sign. You can also come down here to the very bottom and zoom in or zoom out using the controls. Okay, so let's talk about text. We want a name inside of these 2 circles, but we want the entire ornament all to cut out as one piece. Let's do that. There's 2 ways you can do that. The first and the second both start with text. So you can either hit T on your keyboard or come over here to the text menu. Just click anywhere on your canvas and now we have a new hovering bar that has our text options on it. So I'm going to choose a little boy's name. Now, I have typed that in and it's still editable, right? I can come back in here and make it all lowercase. This is active text. So when I say the words active text, you know that inside of our layers menu, this is actual text. You can see it's text because it says Elan. When it is no longer active text, it will say something along the lines of compound vector. That is no longer active. And when we're talking through this tutorial, remember, active text means you can still edit it. Vector means you cannot. Okay, so coming in here, I'm going to close our layers menu because right now a new menu is going to pop out. When I'm here and I have my text selected, the transform box is around it, I can now come up to our text menu and choose any text I want. So you can see, if I remove my search from last time, all of my, well, not all of mine, but a ton of fonts will come up. Now, you can come through, and if you're using only xTool Studio fonts, you can actually come up here and say, oh, I only want serif fonts. So serif fonts are the ones that have these nice little extra accents. Non-serif or sans serif, which is here, will bring up only fonts that have no accents on the letters, okay? Now, I'm going to be using this text called Uncle Grump, and the reason is because it's super easy to see. This is one of my favorite fonts for children. It works for boys and girls. If you want, I'll link it below. So I'm going to choose Uncle Grump, and I'm going to close this text menu. Oops. Let's go ahead and choose Uncle Grump. There we go. Our text will now choose Uncle Grump, and then I can close that. All right. So here is our text. Now, it doesn't fit, and by doesn't fit, it means it doesn't touch this outside. For ease of use, I'm going to go ahead and select everything over here and select engrave, okay? And that just is going to make it a little easier for you to see. I'm also going to select the text, and I'm going to make it a different color, and it is now engrave. Again, it is only so that you can see it better. We'll still cut out this stuff. So let's say you have a short name and you don't want it huge, right? Let's say you still want to put a star or something on it. So you want it about there, but it's not touching. There are so many ways that we can do this, okay? The first and easiest way, many file designers will have, is that you will center the name first. I need you to remember that. Center your name first. Get it wherever you want. You can see mine is centered with the circle because I have a crossbar coming right down into the name that's red and one coming across the name that's blue. You see that? They'll disappear. They appear. That is auto snapping. That's just helpful. You can also select both of these two pieces, come up to your alignment menu and hit this align center. It will do vertical and horizontal at the same time. Notice I did not have that attached. That will change if you do that. Okay, so now let's say this is the perfect size we want, but it's not connected, not to each other and not to the outer ring, which means you will have, right now anyway, one cut for the small circle, one cut for the big circle, and 4 different cuts of letters. That will not help us. So the easiest way is to use a rectangle. Whatever thickness you would like, you would use a rectangle on the top, copy and paste it, which is just Command C, Command V. Now, let me make those two engraved so you can see it. Ooh, right now, I'm going to go ahead and move this one down for ease of use. Right now, if we combined all 3 of these blues, which we can, they will become one thing. So let's do that. I'm going to highlight everything here. And if I do that, you can see my outer circle, this compound vector is also highlighted. So I can just hit Shift and turn that off. Now I only have these 3 highlighted. Additionally, you can just, let me deselect. You can just come into your layers menu, click, and while holding Shift, select all 3. Lots of ways to do the same thing. Now, because we want to combine these, we want to come up to our Boolean algorithms up here and do the same thing as we did before, but instead of subtracting it, we want to join it all together or unite it. Now you can see we went from 3 separate pieces to 1 piece, and it's now called a compound vector, which now you know this text is no longer active text because it went from the name to compound vector. Okay? Now, to get this all one piece, we would highlight everything, the vector and the compound vector for our circle, and unite. Now that is all one piece. Now let's say you want this piece also united. You can see there's going to be a little bit of black right there. Highlight both the purple and the black, the 2 concentric circles, and hit unite. Now this is one piece. So when you select cut, it will cut exactly what you see here. That is the easiest and fastest way to join all of that together. Now let's talk about another way that doesn't involve the rectangle. So let's delete our 2 rectangles. Let's say again that you really like this size. We are in active text. We know that because our text menu comes up and it says our text name is over here. We are going to turn this into a split text option, which means we will still have active text, but each of these letters will be different. You can independently move them, but they are still active text. To do that, you select the name, you hit this split text. Now you can see instead of 1 line that said Elon, you have 4 separate letters. If I click on one of these letters, it's still active text. This is very helpful if you're making a lot of ornaments all at once. However, to be honest, I just duplicate and keep all of the same ones there. So now that these are all separate, you can do whatever you want with them. You can adjust them individually. Let's move this one this way. Okay. You can adjust them individually so that they all touch. Now, just adjusting these, we now don't have the A touching anything, right? Like we have the E touching the outside circle, the L touching the E, we have the N touching the outside circle, and the A is not touching either the L or the N, which means if we were to join this all together, the A would cut separately. So in order to adjust that, we can still adjust each of these letters. You can change the size of the letter, which I really don't recommend doing, or you can unlock the aspect ratio. Just like with shapes, we can make this text change the width and the height independently. So again, I just turned off the aspect ratio and now I can make this L just a little bit wider. In doing so, I can then change the position of the A. Maybe like I'll just leave it as normal. And so now I wouldn't want to make that one any bigger. Oops. I don't want to make that one any bigger. We're going to move the L over. Now, if we combine all of this, that will all cut as one piece. And you can bring this piece down, highlight both, and join. Now you have a cutout that is all connected without the bars. Now, with or without the bars, I get asked this all the time. How do I add shapes? So you can come into what is now called the Elements menu, or you can draw. So you have your basic shapes up here. You also have the ability to draw. That'll be a whole different tutorial because this is a hard tool to manage. That's just the way it is. You get in here and practice with it. But basically, if you wanted, any kind of shape, you can actually draw that shape. You can see here, and then you can combine it. However, today we're going to stick inside the Elements and the Basic Shape menu. So you can see in the Basic Shape menu, we have a star. You can draw your star, meaning I held down Shift. You can draw your star not holding down Shift, right? It's a free form. So you want a wider star. That looks ridiculous. You can do all of that. So again, Shift, not Shift. Inside of your Elements menu, where's star? Okay, going into basic shapes, there's actually 2 stars. This is a concentric, which means you're going to have a star shape cutout, just like our circle over here on our ornament, with a hole in the center of that star. Or you can come down here to a basic star. So if you want a solid star, you can just import this solid star. I'm going to show you this one as well. All right. This is a very new concept for xTool Studio, and it makes it very easy for people to design items. If you double click this, you have the ability to set everything yourself. Let's say you want a really wide radius for a 7-point star. It'll make this for you real time. You can also change the inner radius. Ooh, that was too much. You can also change the inner radius. Let's say There you go. This is very helpful in case you're looking for something specific. Now I want you to look, and when we're done with it, if we change it to engrave, you can see it will cut out everything in red, leaving this hole in the center. Kind of a neat little fun thing. This one, however, is a solid state. Okay, so it will cut out the star. Let's say that's the one we want. But let's say that this is so pointy and we have a very playful kind of rounded font. So it doesn't look the same. We want it to look the same. The editing menu up here is how we do that. Again, I'm hitting Command or Control plus and the space bar. Now we're just to the editing of the vector of the star. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the node. I'm going to change it. I know, don't be worried. I'm going to change it to perfect symmetry, and I want you to watch what happens. If I grab one of these handles, doesn't matter which one, and I change it, I can make a nice little rounded star. Now, these, I'm going to hit the same perfect symmetry, and you'll see that these will do it on their own. And that is only because of the way that this star is built. If you come in here and play with this, A, you're going to be frustrated, but B, once you do learn how to edit vectors inside of xTool Studio, you are unlimited, my friend. So let's say we want this playful little star to be added to our design. So let's bring it over a little bit big. And let's turn it with the little twisty turny menu. Now, in design, here's just a rule. 2 points is a minimum. So right now we have our 2 points and we can join that. You can also, I'm asked this all the time, come into the shapes menu, go to, can I search for ginger? No. So I want to go to, why isn't it reducing the search? No elements were found. That's really great, but I typed in Christmas. Let's type in this guy. Now, right now, if we were to cut this, we would lose everything in the middle. We would lose the 2 eyes, the smile, the bow, and the buttons. And you can tell that because those are all free floating. Inside of this group, you can see the only compound vector is the outside. You can highlight and it'll show you that little picture. And that is very valuable. So in order for us to make what we want, let's say we want a cutout of a gingerbread shape with a smiley face and 2 eyes. We can adjust this vector very easily and you should not be intimidated, okay? So in here, you can see that this is all a group, right? I can't select just this button. So we're going to ungroup it. To ungroup it, you can hit Control or Command Shift G. You see how it's now all separate? Or you can come up to this menu that's nested just because, here, let's see if I can, there you go. You can come up to the menu and this right here will be ungrouped because you're working with a group. So either way, our goal is this. Now, right now, we have a bow, which we literally don't need. So I'm just going to select the bow and I'm going to take it away. We have 2 buttons. So let's go ahead, select both and delete. And we have this vector, which is a just bad design. So I want to move all 3 of these pieces above the outline. I'm going to group them together by hitting Command G, or you can select them all and come up here and hit group. And I'm going to now make this what I want. I don't want my machine to cut out all of this inside. I just want the basic shape. To edit this basic shape, you're going to select the compound vector. You have multiple options up here. So if you were to come in here to edit, don't be intimidated. We're just going to zoom in. You can see every blue round item is called a node. And that is giving an instruction to the machine to do something. I'm going to highlight all of these inner pieces and delete them because I'm lazy. I'm going to do more than one at a time. I'm gonna do the same thing. So if I start deleting here, you can see it'll keep going, but I'm impatient, so I'm gonna highlight and delete. Same thing here and here. Highlight a whole bunch. Don't get any of the outside because we do actually want those. And I'm just selecting an area that is not on this. If you were to click, you see how it's following that circle? That would be adding a node, okay? We're selecting off, holding down our mouse, and just hitting delete. All right, that looks good enough. Now we have our layers panel. We have this outside vector. See it in the little mini picture? And then we have the group. So what I would do is I would say, hey, let's cut this and engrave the face. In order to do that, you get your processing menu open and you say, for this outside vector, we're gonna cut, and then, oops, and then for this group, we're going to engrave. Now you've just indicated all actions. Yep. Now we're gonna move him. Let's say we want the little Gingy a little smaller. Okay. Let's say his little leg is cut off too much. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to make all of this a true cut. We need to join the gingerbread and not the group of engraving, but we need to join the gingerbread to the rest of our vectors. So we just highlight the Gingy, highlight the vector, highlight the star, right? So now we have Gingy, star, and vector, and then we come up to our menu and unite. Now, what this will tell the computer to do is cut everything on this and engrave this little face. And what will happen is it will engrave first and cut out this piece, and you have just made yourself this Christmas ornament. You did this. You made it, make it personalized any way you want in any font. If you are working with smaller or script fonts, you will have floating pieces. Those floating pieces are the top dots of I's and J's for lowercase letters. And you can edit those individually using all of the menus I've shown you in this. But I do want to highlight that over here. So remember over here, I was asked to create a mid-century modern, right? And that topper is a rectangle with curved edges. So let's go ahead and put our angled edge at 0.2. You can see right there. And so they want a bottom rectangle to come out wider than the top of the rectangle. Now this is a vector, and we know that because it says rectangle over here, and our vector menu comes up. So we can highlight and move. Ooh, that's a little too far. I'm holding down Shift to make more points in one action. But yeah, there you go. Now you can highlight both and unite them. We can also do the same thing as before. Oops, which is take this little circle, snap it to center, subtract it out. There's our piece, okay? Now, obviously, I would edit that to make it look a bit better, but that's our piece. I want to go ahead and type in a lowercase 2-line word. Here's Mary. Oops, let's do that. Double click and we'll do, what am I clicked on? There you go. Double click and we'll do Christmas. So I'm going to make this a script font by selecting both. Selecting one. Oh, there you go. We're going to select both, come up to the menu, and do Pacifico. So I think Pacifico is a standard font for everybody. It is a nice chunky script. So in case you have a diode laser, or not very powerful diode laser, you're still going to be able to use this font. So I'm going to go ahead and change this font to Pacifico. So now I can X out of that. In our layers panel, we have two separate lines. That is the way you should design something like this, because you are going to have to edit these together, but you're also going to have to edit these separately. So I just recommend this. First and foremost, we're going to do sizing. So whatever you want to do, go ahead and size it. So right now I have both of these selected, and you can see my auto snapping shows me the center of where these two pieces are. I'm going to stop there, but I'm also going to come up to the alignment menu and horizontally center them. Now what I'm checking for is where they're crossing and touching. I'm also going to always zoom in and making sure they're not going to come down into the center block of another area. And that's basically it. So as you know, we are in active text because we have the words listed over here and because we have our text menu up here. To get this ready for cutting, we actually have to weld this text together. So welding just means that, let me get the processing menu. Let's say we want to cut this. These pieces, so the M in its entirety will cut out, but it will then start the cut for the E at the end of the M. So that means you'll end up with cut out letters. You're not ending up with what you think you want. So in order to do that, we are going to join, unite, or weld the text together. So with the text selected, you can come up. I'm just going to move these menus away so you can see them. With the text selected, you're going to come up and you see this double uppercase A. You're just going to hit weld. Watch what happens where those letters join. They are no longer going to cut out. However, in our layers panel, it's still active text. So if you want, watch what happens. It's still welded. That is very cool, especially if you're doing a ton of names. So I'm going to go back and make that Mary, and it's still welded. Now, if we do the same thing down here, you see the I is not connected. The dot of the I is not connected. But we can weld everything else. But that I, that's still going to cut as a separate piece. So what we can do is, now that this is welded, we need to vectorize it. And there's different ways you can do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say convert to path. Now, when we convert it to the path, we have a different menu. It says compound vector. Unlike this, which is active text. So coming back, we're clicking on this, and you can come up here, right here to edit, zoom in, leaving everything else the same. You can highlight that dot and overlap it. Let's go with that. Now, if I hit done, you know that just like the example we had with active text, it will cut out the I from, or the dot from the I. So that won't work for us, will it? We can, however, unite these two pieces of the separate I dot. I'm actually going to lock that Mary for a second. So we can do the separate I dot. Now, how we're going to do that is two ways. Let me go back. The first way is to delete it here. That's the first way. Hit C on your keyboard or go to a circle, put it here, center it whatever way you want, highlight Christmas and the dot, and hit unite. That's the easiest way. There's another way. As you can recall, I said there's always more than one way to do something. It is a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to save that for another day, but it involves releasing the compound path, moving everything, and then subtracting out all the cutouts. So we're not going to do that, but this is ready, okay? So now what we would need to do is we would need to join all of this together. Now remember our 2-point rule. We've got a nice point here. We've got a nice point here. This is ready. For a little visual interest though, I would maybe, you know, put some other stuff in here. Maybe like that. Maybe do that. And then we select all, unite. And that's our 2 ornaments. You just made these 2 ornaments using only xTool Studio. I will do a series and it will include a shaker ornament. I am asked about shaker ornaments a lot, and so I'm going to record one of those videos as well. So now for those of you who are new, once you get here, you're going to open your processing menu. You will select your material. So let's say it's going to be basswood. 1/4 would be better, but let's say we're doing 1/8 basswood. And then you got these little tips I don't know how to turn off. And then you would enter your settings after you've tested. So if this doesn't work for your computer or for your laser, that's high. That's actually higher than my P2 would do. But your settings here, you can adjust these settings and you can cut these 2 out. You are literally ready at this point to cut out. Now, I always recommend you saving things. Always, whether you want to save it to the cloud or you save it locally, always recommend you save it before you process. And the reason is processing, there could always be something. Your firmware update could fail. Your processing communication between your computer or your device and your machine can fail. So I always save it. That's it for me today. If you have any questions on this video, leave them down below. And if you want to see a tutorial on any other video, let me know down below. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more of this kind of tutorial.